What if death had a design and you tripped it up? 25 years ago, Final Destination gave horror a new face with no mask, no voice, and no slashing. Just cold, calculated, and waiting. Today, we're revisiting the flick that kickstarted a franchise, giving us nightmares about planes, trains, and bathtubs. This was a film that proved no one escapes fate. Ain't that right, Tony Todd?
Disrespecting the design could incite a fury that could terrorize even the Grim Reaper. And you don't even want to fuck with that, Mac Daddy.
You guys got fat while everybody starved on the street. It's my turn. You come with me. I'm at the Plaza Hotel. You're welcome. You're all welcome!
The origin of death's design. The story of Final Destination didn't start in a studio boardroom. It started as an X-Files episode script. Writer Jeffrey Roderick imagined an episode where a man cheats death only to find himself haunted and terrified by the unpredictable things happening to him. When producers James Wong and Glenn Morgan, both X-Files veterans, got their hands on it, they saw bigger potential and they reworked the entire script just for the big screen, stripping away the idea of a mass killer and replacing it with something far more unsettling. Death as a force. No cloak, no voice, just an eerie feeling lurking around every corner. That fresh concept turned the what could have been another teen horror flick into something more original and something way more terrifying than anybody has seen. Casting death's first victims. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Before Devon Savoy was cast as Alex Browning, the studio looked at some pretty big names. Tobey Maguire and Topher Grace both came through the casting office, but the vibes just weren't quite there. Until Devon walked in, fresh off Idle Hands, he brought the right mix of vulnerability and paranoia. He wasn't stuck up, cocky, or overconfident. He looked like the guy who actually believed death was watching him and death was chasing him. Devon even said when he first read the script, he was flying and kept nervously glancing at the engine in mid-air. That fear, it is all over his performance in this film. You can literally see it in his eyes. Ali was also a standout. Her cool, quiet intensity gave the film its emotional grounding. She wasn't the typical scream queen. She was thoughtful, guarded, and unpredictable. There was even buzz that Kristen Dunst tried for the role of Claire Rivers years before the Spider-Man days, but Ali's chemistry with Devon made her the clear choice. It would have been funny though if Tobey Maguire got the role and Kristen Dunst got the role, and then you see them years later in the Spider-Man film. That actually would have been kind of crazy, but it just wouldn't have been the same movie. Together, this cast didn't feel like Hollywood. They felt like real people in an impossible situation, and that's why we're so bought into it every second of the film. You actually believe these people. Production problems and offset challenges. Filming wasn't without its turbulence, no pun intended. The plane crash sequence, which still is one of the more intense scenes in horror films, was logistically a nightmare. Shot in a cabin, it required the cast to be flipped, shaken, and tossed around while reacting with genuine panic. Devon even said he threw up a few times in between takes. And because that scene was so big, budget constraints forced the team to get a little bit more creative with the rest of the kills. The now iconic bathroom death scene with Todd wasn't just terrifying, it was precision filmmaking. Water leaking from the toilet, wet clothes hanging, a loose cap on a shampoo bottle, and a wire cord, and bam, that scene broke the barrier of the phrase shock value. It was suspense built from tension and timing. That was one of the more calculated, designed scenes in the film. Final Destination didn't rely on your traditional villain, bad guy, or slasher. Instead, it leaned into the atmosphere, creating a visual language where every creak, every gust of wind, every flickering light felt like a warning. And I think that just brought a whole new element to horror. Why this still works 25 years later, and the original ending. Thank Todd for test audiences, because we would have got a totally different ending, one that leaned more on the spiritual and religious aspect. Yes, for those of you who don't know, in the original ending, Alex dies to save Claire. Claire has a baby, which resets death, and she ends up being left alone for now. Plus the fact that Carter lives, and the audience just went ballistic because a lot of the audience hated Carter's character. So this forced the team to go back to the drawing board and reshoot the ending that would work for all audiences, which cost the production crew an additional $2 million to do it. But that's why Final Destination holds up today. It wasn't just the crafty, creative death scenes, it's the concept that really brought it home. You can run, you can hide, you can rearrange your seat on a plane, but death, it's always recalculating and coming for you. While the sequels, they kind of leaned more towards spectacles, sun-tanning beds, nail guns, and gymnastics, but the first film was controlled, slow burning, and psychological dread. It took itself seriously, and that's what made the horror factor land harder. The legacy of Final Destination. On a $23 million budget, Final Destination pulled in over $112 million worldwide and launched a franchise that became the synopsis of creative death sequences. It kind of reminded me of Saw. The first one was great, surprising, but then after that, it was just all about how people got killed. But on the other hand, it also gave pop culture moments we'll never forget. The logging truck from Final Destination 2. My wife still to this day will change lanes when she sees those type of tractor trailers on the road. That second thought you have before boarding a plane. The original just stands apart because it had soul. It made you think. It didn't just make you jump from cheap scares. It made you look over your shoulder and wonder, did I just dodge something that I wasn't supposed to? Final thoughts. Fate always wins. So here we are, 25 years later, and Final Destination still has us a little shook. It reminds us that horror doesn't need a face, just timing, tension, and a killer concept, which this movie definitely had, especially for 2000. It wasn't just a movie, it was a warning. If you cheat death, death still comes for you. So happy 25th anniversary to the film that taught us the scariest villains of all might be just fate itself. And again, as always, RIP to Tony Todd. He just made this movie amazing as well. Just those couple of parts where he's explaining death is just absolute phenomenal. The original Candyman himself, and never could be replaced. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. I will see you on the next one. Much love, like, share, and subscribe. Peace.
Thank you. You love me.